Welcome to another edition of Fantasy Football Chaos Show. I am the Sam Adams analyst, your host, Thad Sosa. We finally, thank you, Jesus, had football this week. It isn't training camp. It's not off season. It's not workouts. The season is here. We finally wrapped up with preseason week one. We're recording a little late in the week this week. So I'll actually talk a little bit about the game we had last night, which was the Pats versus the Eagles. If you can call it versus the Eagles, it seemed more like the Pats just put on a clinic and the Eagles were there to watch, but we'll get to that soon. First, I want to go over some news that we had this week. The biggest news was Mark Andrews was carted off the field. He was put in an ambulance. They hooked up an IV. Apparently he had some extreme cramping and just kind of couldn't go on for the rest of practice. It was very scary, but he didn't need to be hospitalized. We are monitoring it right now, but he does seem to be doing fine. They don't think there's any problems. It was just very hot, and I don't know if any of you know, he is a type 1 diabetic, so that doesn't help, but he seems to be doing good. We need to keep an eye on it for fantasy purposes, but hopefully he comes back just as good as he was before. Another is Deandre Swift is finally back to practicing. He was given a full workload, this week on Thursday. It seemed like from that growing injury he had, Campbell and the coaching staff, they were just trying to be super careful with how they proceeded with him. They want him out there. They need him for the season if they're going to have put up any sort of competition to some of these other teams. We're going to have to kind of monitor and see how they go forward with him the rest of the preseason, but it is a very good sign that he came back and was able to be given a full workload. And didn't seem to have any problems with it. So that's good. Jalen Hurts, he took himself out of the game against the Pats yesterday. Apparently he had a very bad stomach infection. He seemed fine in warmups, and then it must have popped up at some point because he was no go. And to an extent, you could kind of say the same thing about Flacco, but I know that there has been some talk that maybe Hurts is in a little bit of a quarterback competition with Flacco, but from what we've seen from him being Flacco, I'm not worried about it. He didn't show me anything that suggests that he's in any sort of running, even though Hurts put up that modest stat line last week in that first preseason game. The next one and last one is Justin Fields. He had a little bit of a growing injury, missed Wednesday practice, came back Thursday, seems to be good to go. They plan on him playing Saturday, as long as it doesn't turn into some kind of lingering problem. I know growings, hamstrings, sometimes some of those soft tissue ones, they really start to stick around longer than they expect and we want. So not too much to monitor with that, but doesn't hurt just to kind of keep it in the back of your mind. But he does seem good to go on Saturday, and nobody else seems to be worried about it. So let's start off with the Washington football team and the Patriots, their first game. Mac Jones and Cam Newton, obviously we're watching that quarterback competition there. Jones, I think, got the bigger start. He went 13 for 19 for 87 yards with 0 touchdowns, but Cam Newton went 4 for 7 for 49 yards. So all in all, they kind of ended up with about the same if you kind of round everything down. I told you they played last night against the Eagles, so it was a little bit better for both of them. Mac Jones is still getting the majority of the passing work. He went 13 for 19 for 146, so a little bit better. He seems to be kind of coming around a little bit. Cam Newton went 8 for 9 for 103 and 1 touchdown. What I am looking at and starting to take away from this is Cam Newton, he's not rushing right now. He is sticking in that pocket. He looked way more comfortable against the Eagles. I know that they were playing against their second string line, defensive line, which is, it's still, they're still playing, so they still have a chance, but he's not rushing. He's sitting back in the pocket. He's waiting for the play to develop. I liked what I saw from him. I think he didn't set the bar very high for passing touchdowns last year, so I think he has a chance to definitely outperform and outproduce his passing touchdowns from last season. They got a couple of those receivers involved. N'Keal Harry had a couple catches last night. Randre Stevenson, though, is kind of the one that I really wanted to look at. He went that very first game against the football team. He went 127 yards on 10 carries. Now, I know 91 of those yards was a long, exciting touchdown run, which was absolutely amazing. 2 touchdowns, though. Okay. And in total, so far this preseason, Randre Stevenson has 4 touchdowns, which I think is nothing to scoff at. He, even yesterday, playing against the Eagles, had a little bit more modest stat line. He didn't have that big breakaway. He went 15 for 66, which still brings him to over 4 yards a carry, almost 4.5, which is kind of what we're looking for. If you can stay about that 4.5 yards per carry, you will be more than fantasy relevant in this league. And I think he has a good to fair chance, from what I've seen so far, of maybe taking a lot of work away from Damian Harris. Now, I know that's not what a lot of us want to hear, but he is definitely making the case that he should at least be involved in some sort of a timeshare. So keep an eye on that. We'll see how he does the last game of preseason and kind of where they end up going forward. I do think that a lot of the rushing game will come down to who ends up being the quarterback. It does seem that Cam Newton, like I was saying, is staying in the pocket a little bit more. If that is just a preseason thing, if all of a sudden we get to, the regular season and he reverts back to it, then that's just what it is. But so far, he seems to be wanting to stay in the pocket. And he's actually done very well back there so far. So he could be kind of that factor where he has the rushing ability and they aren't sure who to cover. So that could help Randre Stevenson and Damian Harris a lot more also. But we'll just have to see. This is all preseason. Everybody's out there trying to work out some kinks and see what works and see what doesn't. So just something kind of big to keep an eye on. Moving on to the Pittsburgh-Philly game last week, Naji Harris. He is somebody that everybody has been keeping their eye on. He's obviously being drafted as potentially an RB1 for your team. I don't like him that high. I've made that case before. I am not big on rookies being my RB1, but he is playing like they're using him, I guess it's to say, like they're expecting him to start, which is obvious, duh. He had 2 carries for 10 yards and he had 1 catch for 9 yards. So in all, that first game, he had 3 touches. But it makes sense because that's what you do with your starters, especially that first week of preseason. You kind of get them a little bit warmed up to kind of getting back in the game. You give them a couple snaps and let them get their feet underneath them, get their sea legs back. But Naji is hard because he is still a rookie. So I think they need to find that kind of balance between what you do with a rookie, which is during preseason, you play them because you want to see what they can do. You want to get them that experience, but at the same time, he is also their RB1. So you don't want to play him too much and potentially injure him and have something bad go wrong. And all of a sudden they're kind of up a creek without a paddle. So it makes sense that they're limiting him, but they also, I think, need to get him more reps because you can't just throw a rookie into the regular season and expect him to produce. So I think he's an RB2 just because he's a rookie. Could he blow up and be an RB1? Absolutely. I have no doubt that he has the potential to do it. I think next season we are talking about him being potentially a top 10, if not a top 5 running back. But for this season, without having seen any NFL tape on him, I'm holding off until at least my RB2, which means I won't have him on any of my teams. So Deontay Johnson went 3 for 3 for 41 yards. Claypool was only out there for a little bit. Jalen Hurts, that kind of modest stat line that we were talking about. He went 3 for 7 for 54 yards. Sure. He's still, I think, kind of coming around to it. Ertz, who everybody is starting to get a little afraid of, went, let's see, he went 2 for 3 for 20 yards. So he's not, just because we haven't really talked about him a lot and we're worried about him being traded, he's not gone yet. And that stupid haircut, I think, is what's going to keep him in the game. And I hate it. And I want him to be off the team simply because of that. But, what can you do? And then Dallas Goddard is the other one. He went 1 for 1 for 34 yards. It was a beautiful catch. I actually watched it right before we taped our last show. Right as I turned around, I saw him catch it right off of that across the field route that he ran. It was beautiful, which means that Goddard isn't going anywhere either. I do like Goddard more than Ertz this year. That's for sure. I don't think Ertz is the starter, but I do think he will be around enough to annoy. So yeah, they played that pretty well. Moving on to Chicago. Now, obviously the big one in Chicago everybody's looking for is Justin Fields. He didn't play too bad. He went 14 for 20 for 142 yards and 1 touchdown. And then he had 5 rush attempts for 33 yards and another touchdown. The touchdown he threw, it looks like protection kind of broke down a little bit. He hit, just James wide open. Kind of underthrew him a little bit, but whatever, he caught it for a touchdown. And then he scrambled in and scored one. Had no problem dropping his shoulder to get that touchdown. It's not something that you want your rookie doing quite yet, especially in preseason one. You want him to kind of take it easy, especially because he will be potentially your not week one. He will be your quarterback one at some point. Andy Dalton is not the answer, and he is not going to keep Justin Fields off the field for that long. I think by week 4, when they go against the Lions, I think that is when we'll start seeing Fields. They're going to want to get through that kind of Lions share of the first couple of games that they go against. We'll let Andy Dalton deal with that. I don't think they want their rookie quarterback getting swallowed up by Donald and everybody like that. So I think he starts week 4 is my prediction. And then I think he's just in the rest of the season. I feel bad for Andy Dalton because I know he had to have been told he was going to start. But in all fairness, Chicago didn't think that there was any chance in the world that they would end up with somebody like Justin Fields. So I kind of feel bad for all of them. Matt Nagy is digging in his heels. I think he'll do it just long enough to say that, yep, he was our starter. We gave him the chance, but sorry, Justin Fields is better. Tua went 8 for 11 for 99 yards and an interception. Gaskin went 4 for 19 and with 1 catch for 3 yards. Salvon Ahmed went 6 for 40. He's creeping up. I don't think Gaskin is as sure of a starter as everybody thinks he is. I know that there was a while there where Salvon Ahmed seemed to be competing with every other running back that they have. But I would not be surprised if at some point he overtakes Gaskin. He played phenomenally last season for the couple games that Gaskin was out. We know that Miami likes to run a 1 running back kind of backfield. We'll see what they do this season. I know that there's been some chatter about some different things that they're doing, but I would not keep your eyes on Ahmed. I think he's coming. He's coming for that job. Dokes also was back there. He had 3 carries for 2 yards. 4 of those 2 yards, unfortunately, came from 1 run. So he struggled a little bit. He had 1 catch for 2 targets for -3 yards. So he's not there yet, in my opinion. I didn't see anything to convince me otherwise. He struggled. So I think he'll be fine eventually, but I think he struggled. And I think it's between Gaskin and Ahmed, and I think it's a lot closer than people think, which is good because you can get Ahmed probably 2 to 3 rounds later at least than you can get Gaskin. Dallas and Arizona, not a whole lot to report for this one. For Dallas, Gallup was about the only potential starter that was made any sort of an impact. He went 2 for 3 for 23 yards. Lamb was out there. He had 1 target, wasn't able to bring it in. So I think it's preseason week 1. A lot of these starters are getting about maybe 1 series, if not 2 at the most, depending on the position. And then they're sitting them because they need these guys for the regular season. Week 2 and will probably be a lot different. It's hard to decide which of these weeks will be kind of the dress rehearsal that we usually have. It used to be preseason week 3, but now that we only have 3 weeks, do these guys start more week 2 and then sit, week 3? Do they kind of split it up? That's something that these coaches kind of have to figure out. And we're so far from what we've seen, at least from like the Patriots, they've just kind of split it up. Their big time starters are going to play kind of a little bit here and a little bit there, and that's about all they're going to do, and just kind of keep them fresh and keep them focused. The Arizona side of the ball, we had Chase Edmonds go in there. Let's see, he went he only had 3 attempts for 10 yards. I think that he is, for all intents and purposes, he's the RB1 in Arizona. I love Chase Edmonds. Everything that he has ever done has never been really for the rushing side of the ball. So it'd be interesting to see what he can do when giving the rushing workload as opposed to just the passing. Obviously, we know that he is a receiving monster out of the backfield. Rondale Moore also played. He went 2 for 16 yards. I think he'll be there also. I think a lot of the rushing work will be kind of split up. So there's that. Christian Kirk, he was the most productive Arizona receiver who was out there, and he only had 1 catch for 34 yards. I think Kirk kind of picks up where he left off last season. I know he kind of fills it out a little bit every now and then last season, but he was still fairly productive for them. And I think he will continue to be productive. We'll just have to see. The Cleveland-Jacksonville game, Trevor Lawrence, okay? Everybody was real excited to kind of see how it went for him. And it went, for a rookie, about as good as expected. For the number 1 overall draft pick, you weren't overly excited for what you saw. He didn't play terrible. He went 6 for 9 for 71 yards. He also lost a fumble. That is not something you want your quarterback doing, especially one who is potentially your starter. Gardner Minshew, he also was out there. He went 4 for 8 for 47 yards and 1 touchdown. You can tell that the quarterback battle is between the 2 of them. I know that they've announced that they aren't fully committed to announcing who will start. I know that I'm pretty sure they came out and said something about they will announce here in the next week or so who will be starting. But we'll have to see kind of how they use them this week against the Saints and who kind of gets the bigger nod. And the problem is with preseason, the team or the players that get the bigger nod are the ones who play the least. So that's kind of something to keep your eye on. Not a whole lot going on the Cleveland side of the ball. The only ones who really of note who did anything were Higgins and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Higgins went 1 for 2 for 12 yards, and Peoples-Jones went 3 for 5 for 26 yards. Just wasn't an overly big performance by any of the starters that you really need to know or really want to know about. But like I said, that's just because it's preseason week 1. They're trying to get these guys some reps, but other than that, they need to rest them. Denver and Minnesota, we have this quarterback battle that we've been hanging on to. Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. Okay. Drew Lock went 5 for 7, 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 1 rush for 6 yards. Bridgewater went 7 for 8 for 74 yards and a touchdown. It's a tight battle between the 2. Drew Lock, from what I saw, I thought he looked like the better quarterback. I liked what I saw from him. I think it's a tight battle. His longest touchdown pass was 80 yards, and it went to KJ Hamler. KJ Hamler went 2 for 2 for 105 yards and a score. You're not really drafting Hamler unless you're in kind of a deeper league or you want to take a late round flyer on him. But other than that, I mean, he was about the only one that that you need to know about that did anything of note. Trinity Benson, who I'm sure none of you even really know, and if you do, excuse me, you're not drafting him anyway. He caught 2 touchdowns, one from each of them. Doesn't mean anything. He's still undraftable. He's never really had a regular season target. So, yeah, I wouldn't pay too much attention to that. But Jerry Jeudy went in there. He went 1 for 3 for 33 yards. Kind of exciting to see Jeudy back out there, but at the same time, you would hope that he could do a little bit more. But again, we'll have to see how preseason week 2 goes. New Orleans and Baltimore. This is another one of those big quarterback battles you've been watching. We got a lot of these this year, huh? Winston and Taysom Hill. Okay. Jameis Winston went 7 for 12 for 96 yards and a touchdown. Surprise, surprise. He also threw an interception. Those interceptions, I think, they drive me nuts when it comes to him. I don't see him starting. I have been in the Taysom Hill wagon kind of all summer long. I think it will end up being Taysom Hill, but I mean, Jameis Winston, he's not terrible. I just think Taysom Hill can help them win more. He went 8 for 12 for 81 yards, but unfortunately, he also threw an interception. Neither one of these guys threw a touchdown. Apparently, they liked throwing it to the other team a little bit better. Latavius Murray got in there, rushed 5 times for 6 yards. That's not exciting. Their new signee Freeman, he went 6 yards for 6 attempts, and he also fumbled once. So that's also not another thing to be excited about. Callaway, who seems to be the really only viable receiver at the moment outside of Kamara, he actually didn't play too bad. He went 3 for 4 for 61 yards. He was kind of one of the few shining spots for this game. The Saints just struggled all around. Lamar Jackson was obviously held out of this game, so it was a lot closer on the kind of the score sheet. But Saints, they had 6 turnovers and they had 10 penalties. So that's a rocky start to the post Breeze era, and I hope that they get stuff figured out. But that was not, especially those 6 turnovers, is not something you're looking for to start a season with. That's not a good start. What's good, I guess, is the only way to go is up from there. Kansas City, San Francisco, Trey Lance. He's the other big time quarterback that everybody is wondering, when is he going to start? Is he going to start? He struggled. Except for 1 touchdown pass, he struggled. He went 5 for 14 for 128 yards and a touchdown. Jimmy G went 3 for 3 for 26 yards. That deep throw, I don't know if any of you watched it. It was beautiful. He nailed it. It was right on target. So you can see why they drafted him as high as they did. Unfortunately, the rest of his time out there, you can see also why I am nervous and am not convinced that he will start as early as people think or as people want. I think that if Jimmy G is having a good enough season and they're winning and he's producing and doing what he needs to do, I don't see them pulling him out. I don't see why they would. There's no sense in pulling out a quarterback that's winning, especially when everybody's kind of flowing along. But I can see him not starting early. And I think there's a good to fair chance that if Jimmy G plays the way that we know he can, he could sit most of this season. So keep an eye on that. I know a lot of people don't either believe or want to hear that, but I struggle seeing him starting early. I think if you had to pick between him and Fields, who will start the earliest, it's definitely Fields. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a way better player than Andy Dalton. And yeah, so I don't see Trey Lance starting as early unless we see some kind of self-destruction from Jimmy G. CEH, he played fine. I mean, he was only in there for a couple carries, so he played just about as much as every other starter did. Like I said, they're just trying to get some of these guys just some playing time, get their sea legs back underneath of them, kind of get them back in the rhythm. I am super high on him this year. I think that a lot of people are off Clyde Edwards-Elaire because they have some hurt feelings from last season. He is a prime example of why I do not draft a rookie in the first round. I saw him going as early as number 4 overall, which is absolutely ridiculous. I think he's going as an RB2. I think he is a high-end RB2 who could potentially finish inside the top 10. I'm excited for him. I think he has a chance to definitely improve his game. And I know that even him and also Mahomes were talking about wanting to pass to the running back more, which will help him. He also only scored 4 rushing touchdowns last year. So even if he bumps it up to like the league average, if he scores 5, 6, 7 touchdowns, it's just going to be an immense bump for him. The LA and San Diego game, it wasn't overly exciting. There weren't a whole lot of people in there that you wanted to watch. You were kind of watching that the backfield in LA, the Rams backfield, just to kind of see what they would do. Henderson didn't play at all, but it's kind of expected because he's the kind of de facto starter right now. They want to see what he can do. They also want to make sure that he stays healthy. He is, in my opinion, firmly in that RB1 spot with Cam Akers going down. The big thing is we don't know how much of a workload he can handle. Can he stay healthy and be the RB1 through the whole season? He struggled with it last year, which is why Akers kind of took over. But as of right now, Henderson is the guy. They're not taking chances with him. They already lost 1 RB1. I don't think they want to lose a second one. So he might get some snaps here in the next 2 games before we start the regular season, just to kind of get him going. But I don't see them playing a lot, and I see them really protecting him. Indian Carolina, Chuba Hubbard. He showed that he is a very capable backup to CMC. He had 7 carries for 80 yards. So if CMC were to ever go down or miss time for any reason, I think that he's obviously not Christian McCaffrey, but I think he could step in and fill the role about as good as anybody right now. The only not so bright spot for him was he only was able to bring in 1 of his 4 targets for only 2 yards. You would like that to be bumped up obviously a lot more, but he is still a rookie. He's still getting his legs underneath of him. I think he'll be just fine. Terrace Marshall went 3 for 5 for 88 yards. He looked great out there. He was able to be hit and stride a couple times for some big gains. So he was fun to watch. Eason, he went 15 for 21. Eason is that backup quarterback who everybody started to look at when we heard about Carson Wentz. Apparently he thought he had too many bones in his feet and wanted to have one taken out. But we are hearing that Carson Wentz, he is healing and seems to be trending towards a week 1 start. So Eason, if he does start week 1, I don't think it'll be for very long. And as low as I am on Carson Wentz, I think that he is definitely the best option for this team and the only one who will really give them a chance at winning. I think if Carson Wentz goes out, I think all of these guys like Pittman, everybody else along with Taylor, I think they take a little dip. I know that Taylor might not take one as much because he's a running back, but I still think good quarterback play breeds good running back play. And if they know that, Taylor's about the only weapon that they have because he can rush the ball and he's great, they're going to start honing in on him and it's going to shut him down real quick. So that was week 1. Really the only other game I kind of wanted to look at was the Detroit Lions. Obviously, those are my guys. They went against the Buffalo Bills. You liked what you saw some parts, and you liked what some things you didn't. The Bills side, Zach Moss had a catch, scored a touchdown. He actually didn't look too bad. Josh Allen wasn't in there though. So you kind of wonder, is this just because of preseason? Will he start getting receptions like that during the regular season? I'm not high on running backs from the Bills. I think Josh Allen is the RB1 there, and I think there's a lot of other running backs I'd rather have. On the Lions side of the ball, Jared Goff, I know everybody thinks that he's just the worst quarterback in the NFL, and I don't get it. In my opinion, it's just Lions bias. I think he's just fine. It took him that first series, he went 3 and out, but then he kind of pulled it together. I'm pretty sure he went 7 for 7 at one point, and it ended up finishing the drive going 7 for 8 or 7 for 9, I think. He hit Tyrell Williams for a couple shots. The rookie Amon-Ra St. Brown looked fantastic coming out of the slot. He hit a couple crossing routes. I think he's going to be a big time player for the Lions this year. I would not draft him as a wide receiver 1 or really even a wide receiver 2. He's more of a flex option, in my opinion, at least right now, until we can see how much they use him and how much Jared Goff likes to use him. But I think he's in a prime spot position-wise to get a lot of looks from Goff. Hawkinson didn't play. He's been struggling with a little bit of an injury, so I know they're resting him. Swift was also, like I said earlier, he was dealing with that growing injury, and so they didn't play him, which might have hindered Goff a little bit also. When the only real star player you have out there is Tyrell Williams, the rookie Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jamal Williams, who I was not impressed with. He wasn't getting a lot of push from the offensive line. I don't think it's too much to worry about yet. I did wish that I could have seen more push from that line, give Williams a little bit of room to run. I think he was met at the line on most of his carries, if not all of them. So that's not good in terms of the running game. But at the same time, Jamal Williams, he didn't really show me anything that says to me I need to be worried about him in terms of taking production away from Swift. So in my opinion, I draft Swift as an RB2 and draft him with confidence. Williams will get his touches. There is no running back out there who is the only running back that ever plays and ever gets all the touches. I do think Williams will get more than a lot of other backups. Like I don't see Alexander Madison playing as much as Williams will, but I also see Deandre Swift being the hot hand and being the one who gets the majority of the touches and can go for kind of that Alvin Kamara-esque type role this year and can put up some big numbers. He did great last year. I ended up picking him up halfway through the season last year, so maybe, and I put him in my starting lineup, and unless he didn't play, he didn't leave the starting lineup. He can score. He can score from inside the red zone. He can catch passes. He's shifty. So I think that he will be just fine. I think the Lions will be just fine. They're not competing for a Super Bowl this year, but I don't think they'll go, 0-16 again either. I'm not drafting Goff this year as a quarterback 2. I think he's kind of a low end quarterback 2. Sorry, I'm not drafting as a quarterback 1 this year. I think he's a low end quarterback 2, in my opinion. I just think there's much better options out there than him. But I don't think he's ranked number 32 like a lot of other people think or are acting like. So that was preseason week 1. I know we kind of went through that real quick. But like I said, it's preseason week 1. There's not a whole lot to report back on. We will see you guys next week for preseason week 2. We should get a little bit more looks at some of these rookies, some of these starters that we've been kind of keeping an eye on. We should be able to see them if the chemistry is there with these guys, how they're looking out there. They should get more playing time. And then preseason week 3. And then we're in it come September 11th, I think, is one of the first games. So we're almost there. you guys just need to hang in. All you redrafters, everybody's starting to come together a little bit, getting the leagues going. I know I got one more redraft league that I'm trying to get figured out and put together to get drafted before the season starts. Other than that, I am ready to go. You guys need to hang in there. Thank you again for watching. Please like, share, comment, everything you need to do. It's chaos out there, everybody. So stay classy.